Welcome back to Ballet Institute's YouTube channel. Today we're going to be talking about port de bras, movement of the arms. We did talk previously in a video about arm shapes. We talked about how the chest stays lifted, shoulders stay pressing down, then your upper arm rotates internally while your lower portion of your arm rotates externally. Your hand is a continuation of that line, so it's not dropping off, but it's a continuation. Palm is facing forward, not down, right? Thumb on top. And then lastly, we talked about the fourth part, which was the fingers, and talked about how you could insert a pen into the fingers to keep that nice lengthened finger shape. So now, how do you take those arm shapes and move them without getting into a strange shape along the way? So, port de bras, movement of the arms. Let's start by talking about the elbow. This is where I feel like the biggest breakdown is. So, teachers will say this all the time, and they're 100% right. The elbow needs to stay lifted. And I like to also say that the elbow leads every movement. So let's start with something simple. Your arm is in second position. You've established your chest and shoulders. You've got good rotation throughout the arm, good shape. You're happy with it. Now, how do you go to allongé? I like to tell people to keep in mind that the elbow is not really going to change. So the shape of your elbow, once you've established a good shape of your arm, it's going to stay where it is, and you're just going to simply rotate the lower portion of your arm palm down, right? So the elbow, in other words, is not going to flip upside down, which I get a lot of. When people go to allongé, they swing that elbow up and lock. Sometimes they lock, sometimes they don't. But either way, you don't want the inside of your arm to flip upside down ever in a port de bras. So, for example, if I'm in first position, chest up, shoulders down, I've got my arm rotations, good shapes to the hand and fingers. When I go to arabesque, I'm not going to flip my elbow upside down. I'm going to try to move that arm into the arabesque and hold on to that elbow shape. Now, don't be confused. It doesn't mean your arm is still rounded, right? I'm not going to do arabesque bent like this. You're going to stretch the arm, but make sure that the elbow doesn't flip upside down. Okay? So the arms are moving through each position, focusing on the elbow. Yes, so practice walking around your house, moving from position to position, even fifth, right? So from first position all the way up to fifth, still thinking about elbows. Here's another tough one. How do I get out to second position? A lot of people flip the arm like this, and then at the last minute, psh, you don't want to do that. From the top of the fifth position, fifth en haut, you want to keep the arm rotated, the elbows rotating, go through the fingers, of course, lengthening, right? Keeping the shoulders down. And think about lifting and floating those elbows up, right? And then here comes the allongé. Hold on to the elbows, elbows floating out to the side. So really think about moving your arms from position to position without letting your elbows flip upside down. That's the biggest thing that I see in class. Another thing to think about is that the port de bras should never fly behind you. A lot of my dancers have a trouble with this, especially when they have very flexible lower backs, or maybe a weaker core. So what happens, I'm not sure if it's the chicken or the egg. Does the weak core arching back cause the arms to fly back, or are the arms flying back causing the core to fall apart? Not really sure, but either way, the arms can really help keep your core together, right? So if I keep my arms in front of me as I'm moving instead of letting them flap behind me, it really helps keep my core together. Good example of this is when you're stepping into a turn. Let's say you're gonna step into a lame duck, or a dégagé en tournant. Dégagé, step over turn, right? You want to make sure when you take that step that you're not losing your placement right before you go into a turn. So the arms shouldn't go back here. The arms are going to stay placed in front of you. And again, I'm thinking about holding onto those elbows. I'm not flipping my arms upside down. You know, keeping the elbow shape really actually helps keep your spine lifted, right? So I notice when I flip my arm upside down, that's also when I feel like my spine arches back. So the two are very connected. So keeping your elbow bones when you step into something, when you move your arms, can really help keep that core placement. Now let's backtrack for just a second and go back to the very beginning when we started talking about that chest and shoulder strength, when we set our foundation to begin thinking about the arm shapes. A lot of things can mess up that chest-shoulder foundation. So one simple one is when you bring your arms to first position, which happens, a million times in every ballet class. So when you bring your arms to first position, make sure you keep your chest dominant. If someone's looking at you from the side, you don't want your shoulders and your arms covering your chest. You want to keep that sternum lifted and your arms low enough that your chest can sit on top. Same thing in second position. You don't want your arms and shoulders rising above and making your chest sink. So keep that chest dominant above the arm, right? There are a lot of ways to mess up that foundation. This is really important because a lot of times when we're moving quicker or there's a higher impact movement like a jump or maybe a series of turns when you're going up and down and up and down, this is where the breakdown can happen. Sometimes we don't have a good press down through the shoulders using our upper backs. So as our bodies are going up and down, the shoulders are disconnecting from the body and they're also bouncing up and down. So this can really work against you, as you can imagine, right? So you want to practice, do something simple. Practice, just do a releve retire and see if you're doing any kind of lift or oomph in your shoulders that you don't want. So you want to keep that broad chest and shoulders down. Now be careful, because a lot of times when I'm coaching a student and talking about this, they get really tense and tight because they're trying so hard. Remember, keep it simple. It's the shoulders pressing down, the chest is lifting, but I can't carry that tension into my arms or into my neck, right? So you're gonna keep the arms nice and soft, keeping the shapes, of course, the elbow bones, right? So when you go into that retire, you don't wanna feel that little giddy up in your shoulders. Same thing for pirouettes. It's very helpful for pirouettes. You take off and you're holding the body together. This little bit of the shoulder lift that I see is usually, well, maybe part of the reason why people lose their connection to the ground, which even though ballet is very lifted and long and tall, you still have to stay grounded, because if you're doing a pirouette, you need contact with that floor to stand on that leg, right? So, and also when you press and connect your body together, it gives you access to the standing leg that should be rotating, right? Turnout is not something, I'm getting a little off track here, but if your upper body is lifting and disconnecting, you've lost an access to all that lower body work that you've worked on. We know that rotation, symmetry of rotation is what gives us stability, right? So when we think about turnout, it has to be an equal feeling or an opposite feeling. One leg is going this way, one leg is going that, and that creates stability. But if your upper body is disconnecting from that work that you're doing, it's not going to be helpful. So it's really important to make sure that upper body stays connected through the shoulders in the back without tension, right? So we've talked a little bit about the elbow bones and then the shoulders and the chest, how you use the arms through movement. Don't let them fly out of your, I like to call it the frame. Don't let your arms go out of your frame, right? Reminds me a little bit of ballroom dancing. But hopefully this information has helped you think about how you can approach port-de-bras a little bit differently and become maybe more aware of what's happening to you in faster or higher impact movements, right? So jumps and turns, that's when things really can go awry if you're not paying attention. So that's it for today. Thank you for joining Ballet Institute's YouTube channel. I'm Jamie, the founder and director. If you ever have any questions about ballet, please submit them, email them, or you can leave them in the comment section. I love talking about ballet. I love hearing what your questions are. Maybe teachers are saying something and you're a little bit confused by it. Maybe I can help shed some light on it. Your teachers are full of great information, but sometimes that breakdown, as I've said before, is really in the application. You know, sometimes our brains understand it or think they understand it, but that's not enough. We have to be able to execute it. And sometimes that means slowing things down and really obsessing, if you will, about that detail until it really sticks in your body. And then when you speed up, it gets better and everything looks neater and cleaner. Again, thank you for joining Ballet Institute's YouTube channel. Passionate about ballet. Subscribe to our channel, share it with your friends, give us a like, and we'll see you next week.